increase the offerings for consumers, basically. Because I think that, with music, for instance, there's a lot of great stuff out there that just doesn't get played. It's just been not part of the top 20 for whatever reason. And I think that, with things like Last.fm and other social media sites, it's opening up the distribution for anyone. And that to me is really important. It's a huge cultural shift, and it's going to impact everyone, and that's the sort of stuff that I'm working on.
Gosh, 10 years? My computer chip, I'll think about what show I want to watch and it'll happen. It's gonna. I think it's gonna look and feel that. I think all the pieces are in front of us. I think what we're doing now is we're in an iterative phase where things need to get a lot easier to use and a lot more consistent and coherent. I think that there's a lot of noise for consumers in the market and way too much choice and way too many different kinds of interfaces and devices. And ultimately, marketing is going to continue to play a huge role in driving what people want to watch and how they want to consume it. And marketing may take on different forms. You may leverage social networks to do that, but it's still going to be the smart guys that figure out that marketing is an enormous part of the job of creating content that are ultimately going to see success. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more choice. But I also think that, and that's where traditional media is never going to go away, because ultimately we have the expertise in marketing, and we have the deeper relationship with the agencies. There's certainly going to be a democratization of that, but you'll always have big shows, and then you'll have ultra niche stuff that appeals to a small audience. And probably what's going to happen in the next 10 years is the guys that try to sort of eke out a living in the middle are going to find themselves having a lot of trouble surviving.
Also, against three dimensions, is basically what are we watching it on, and who are we watching it through. In terms of what are we watching, I think there's going to be increasing explosion of content. We focused on professionally produced content, but I think there's user-generated content, and then there is the middle, which I think we'll be building out as technology makes it easier and easier for people to produce near professionally produced content. I'll differ with Richard in terms of short form content not making money, because I think it hasn't been able to, because it hasn't been able to find the audience. I think increasingly will, and it'll be the role of people kind of to arrange themselves to monetize it, and I don't think we have that one yet. And when it's produced, to address the second one, what will be watched on, I think people will be producing it agnostic of whatever device it will be watched on. I think what you'll find is it'll move from the big screen to the little screen to the mid screen. The three-screen strategy will happen in 10 years' time, and people will be migrating from screen to screen to screen within the same program, for example, moving from home onto the handset so they can watch it as they're moving, going to whatever destination they have, which basically makes short-form content, I think, much more attractive in terms of snacking. But all of this increases the levels of complexity, and I don't think anyone in this room, or indeed anyone who's grown up in 10 years' time, they'll have brain bleed. I think they'll just be confused by everything. So there's a role for an intermediary to aggregate, to simplify, and provide that user experience, much like Apple and iTunes have already done that right now for music.
So 2018, marijuana will probably still be illegal. Okay, so 2018, I'm not quite with you, and I know this is our vision too, but you've expressed a lot of our vision. But if you think about it, say take the wire, I think we will be 100 megabit and beyond networks, gigabit networks probably, but there will still be a difference between a wireless device and a fiber to the home. There will still be a premium to pay if you want to stream media, as opposed to stream media over a portable device, as opposed to increasingly stream it to the home, because I think that that technology will be the same. But what will be really interesting is that social media will be huge, and if we're very, very lucky, the independent artists and independent producers will have created a very significant, perhaps revolutionary sort of, if you go back 30 years, or I can't remember how old I am now, but maybe longer, when FM came in and it rocked, right? It wasn't owned by all the studios and the corporations like us. time, there will increasingly still be concentration on networks, concentration in media, because ultimately big corporations will have gained massive control over rights. So the kind of mass media that people gravitate to will be probably even more controlled than it is. I just think that because we're dealing with an open internet, an open network that allows the opportunity for global markets, global scale, the creation of global communities of interest, which is what social networks are all about, that part will be revolutionary. So whether the dark side or the open side wins, I don't know, but I know that rights will be more protected, and the kind of stuff that's being stolen today will be much harder to steal in the future. And so the real issue today, if we put aside things of funding, that we really have to address is if people in this community cannot come together on the fundamental issues that are being debated on copyright right now, and take a reasonable position, if you're on the deep net neutrality side where everything's free, or on the owner's side where you need fair compensation, we may end up, because of digital technology, with massive concentrated control over rights on every platform in every imaginable way you want it. And I think you want a balanced approach to copyright, which is starting right now, that allows people to continue to be innovative and creative by being derivative, by being able to borrow from what has been created to produce the new while still ensuring the producers get a fair share, because copyright was never meant to close off the ability of people to innovate, to mash up, to do many of the things they're doing today, and there's a huge threat on that. And speaking on behalf of a large corporation, it's not something we think is good, so it shouldn't be something most of you should contemplate. Too much control is a bad thing.
Just to add to those two things, and then we'll wrap, is that I think what we're going to see is the proliferation of physical computing. Bill Buxton did an opening keynote at nextMEDIA. There's a company called Schematic as well that are doing amazing stuff in the space of physical computing. So the proliferation of screens and the concept of screens actually changing. And to sort of summarize some of the points of what the future of consolidation looks like, I personally believe we'll have relationships with our communications providers, or whatever you want to call them, like our relationships with our banks. So there'll be large networks that will contain our communications and our content preferences and such. So I guess with that we'll wrap. We didn't really get to what governments